You're too kind. It's a sign of weakness, she said. So I wished her well and walked away. Now her alpha is gone, and I watched her beg for forgiveness at a party. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I've been asked a lot lately if I feel bad for what happened. I'm not going to lie. A few months ago, I would have. I was always the guy who would go out of his way to help anyone, no matter the cost. My ex, Sarah, used to tell me it was my best quality. She would say things like, "You're the only man I've ever met who's actually, genuinely a good person." Now, when I think about it, I realize she only liked my kindness when it served her. Sarah and I were together for 3 years. We met in college and moved in together right after graduation. I thought we were building a life. I was always the stable one. I took care of the boring stuff, the bills, the groceries, the car maintenance. I'd come home from my job, and while she was out with her friends, I'd be cooking her favorite pasta from scratch because I knew she was stressed about her new job. I even passed on a promotion at work that would have meant relocating because I didn't want to disrupt the life she was building here. I sacrificed because that's what you do for the person you love. I gave her everything and never asked for anything in return. And that's where the problem started. My kindness, my stability, my loyalty, they became a liability in her eyes. It was a slow drip of criticism. At first, it was little comments, like when I held a door open for a woman carrying groceries. "Why are you always so helpful?" she'd say, with a tone that wasn't a question, but an accusation. Or when I decided to take a safe, predictable job with great benefits instead of pursuing a risky startup. "You're so passive, Liam. You never take risks. You're just safe." I tried to talk to her about it. I told her that my passiveness was just me being thoughtful and considerate, not wanting to put her at risk. She just rolled her eyes and said, "There's a difference between considerate and boring." A few months ago, she started going out more. Not with her old group of friends, but a new, flashy crowd from her job. One night, she came home really late, smelling of expensive cologne I didn't recognize. The next morning, she was different. Her eyes were hard, and the way she looked at me was completely devoid of the warmth I was so used to. I tried to make her breakfast, but she pushed the plate away. She sat down at the table, her phone buzzing with a new message, and looked at me. It was the coldest I had ever seen her. "We need to talk," she said, her voice flat. My stomach dropped. I knew what was coming. It wasn't the way she said it, but the way she didn't say anything else. I sat down across from her, just listening. "I can't do this anymore, Liam," she said, tapping her nail on the table. "I'm not happy. I need something more. Something with an edge. A guy who takes what he wants." My heart was in my throat, but I kept my voice steady. "What are you talking about, Sarah?" She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Don't pretend you don't know. I'm with Mark now. He's an investment banker. He just bought a new Porsche. He lives on the top floor of a high-rise downtown. He's a man who understands what it means to be a man." My head was spinning. Mark. She had mentioned him before. "Just a friend," she had said. "You've been seeing him?" She nodded, not even bothering to look ashamed. "For a while. It's what I needed. He's not afraid to be who he is. He's a leader. He's not going to hold a door open for me. He's going to open it, and then I'm going to get in the car." So all of this, the past 3 years. What was that? She sighed, as if the conversation was an inconvenience. "It was a stepping stone, I guess. It was comfortable. But I don't want comfortable. I want exciting. I want a man who's a real challenge." She then delivered the words that will be burned into my memory forever. The ones that made me realize I was nothing but a convenience to her, a placeholder until something better came along. "Honestly, Liam," she said, looking me dead in the eyes, "you're just too kind. It's a sign of weakness. And I'm not with a man who is weak." That's it. That's the line. I felt the floor drop out from under me, and for a second, a flash of white-hot anger shot through my veins. The man she was with, the alpha, was an investment banker who lived in a high-rise. I was the guy who fixed her leaky faucet, who went to her family's awful dinners, and who held her when she cried about a bad day. My weakness was the foundation of our life, and she was tossing it aside for a shiny new toy. But I didn't say any of that. The anger was quickly replaced by a profound, hollow calm. A silence so deep I could hear my own thoughts, clear and cold. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. Her face, which I had memorized over 3 years, was now just a mask of selfishness and indifference. She was a performance, and I was just the audience she had gotten tired of. The funny thing is, a few weeks before, I had been offered a promotion. It was a transfer to another city, nothing dramatic, just a new branch with a bigger team and a significant pay bump. I had turned it down because she had just started her new job, and I wanted to be there for her. I wanted to be a good partner. Now, I saw how much of a fool that made me. I stood up slowly, walked to the kitchen, and put the cold, untouched plate of breakfast in the sink. The silence in the room was thick. She was waiting for me to yell, to beg, to cry. That's what she expected from the weak guy. She probably had a whole speech prepared for my inevitable emotional outburst. But I refused to give her the satisfaction. I just looked at her, a faint, polite smile on my face. A smile that didn't reach my eyes, a smile that said, "You are a problem I am no longer interested in solving." "I understand," I said, my voice steady. "I wish you well, Sarah." Her smug expression faltered for just a second. She probably expected me to ask where she was going to live, how we would split our things, something, anything. I gave her nothing. I didn't acknowledge her cruelty or the new guy or the gaping hole she just tore in my life. I just turned and walked into my bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and started filling it with clothes. She followed me in. "What are you doing? We need to talk about this." "We just did," I said without looking at her. I pulled my passport and my laptop charger out of a drawer. "You made your decision. I'm making mine." She tried to grab my arm. "Liam, wait. You're just going to leave?" I looked at her hand on my arm and then looked at her. My expression was blank. "What did you expect?" I asked, my voice a whisper. "You said I was a stepping stone. You're a problem I no longer have to deal with. I wish you well. Now please, let go of my arm." She dropped her hand like it was a hot coal. I walked out of the apartment, the keys still in my pocket. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove. I drove and drove until I was far away, until her life and all the memories we had built were just a speck in the rearview mirror. I went to a hotel, called my boss, and told him I was ready for that transfer. For the first time in a long time, I was completely alone. But I wasn't scared. All I felt was a vast, liberating silence. I knew she was expecting me to call, to text, to come crawling back. I gave her nothing. I blocked her number, her social media, and every single one of her friends. I disappeared. The man she was with saw my kindness as a weakness, but in that moment, my kindness was the one thing I held on to. I refused to let her selfishness turn me into something I wasn't. She had made her choice. Now I would make mine. The first few weeks in the new city were a strange mix of emotions. I was free, but I was also alone. The silence in my new apartment was deafening, a stark contrast to the life I had left behind. I kept expecting a text, a call, a panicked voicemail. Nothing. I was a ghost. I leaned into it. I focused on my new job, which was challenging and rewarding. The work was demanding, but for the first time in years, I was working for myself, for my future, not for some shared vision that was never really mine to begin with. I spent my evenings running, pushing myself further each day. I got into the best shape of my life. I had no one to cook for, so I started experimenting with new dishes just for myself. I got a small dog from a shelter. Her name is Penny. She's a scruffy terrier mix with a heart of gold. I'd come home from work, and she'd be there, tail wagging, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was home. My friends from back home, the ones I had blocked, weren't talking to me. I heard through a mutual friend, one I hadn't blocked but rarely spoke to, that they were all taking Sarah's side. They thought I was the cold, unfeeling one for just leaving. They bought her story, that she had been suffering in a boring relationship and that I had been stifling her growth. She was the victim, and I was the cruel villain who abandoned her. I didn't try to defend myself. I didn't correct them or tell them the truth. I just let them believe whatever they wanted. It was liberating to not have to care. About 3 months after I left, I got the first signs that things weren't going so well for her. My friend, Mark, who was still in the old city, texted me out of the blue. He didn't know the full story, but he was a straight shooter. "Hey man, I heard some crazy stuff about Sarah and that new dude," he wrote. I just responded, "I'm good, man. Hope you are too." He wrote back, "Nah, dude, this is wild. I saw them at a bar last week." He was screaming at her, calling her a gold digger. He threw a drink in her face and walked out. She was just sitting there, crying, with all her friends looking at her. I read the text, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity. Just a kind of sad confirmation. My kindness was a weakness, but his strength was just his cruelty, and she was getting a full dose of it. Then, the messages started. Not from Sarah, but from her friends. First, from Jessica, her best friend. Jessica, "Hey, Liam, it's Jessica. Sarah is going through a really tough time right now. I know you guys didn't end on the best terms, but she could really use a friend. Mark was a real piece of work. I read it and deleted it. No response. A week later, another one. This time from her cousin, Lisa. Lisa, you know, for someone who always talks about being such a good person, you're being a real jerk right now. Sarah just lost her job, and Mark left her with a ton of debt. She's alone, and she feels like she has no one. You owe her a chance to explain." I blocked Lisa. The attempts became more desperate. They weren't just asking for my help. They were trying to guilt me into it. My kindness was now the weapon they were trying to use against me. It didn't work. I felt absolutely nothing for her. The person I knew was gone. She was a different person, someone I didn't know and didn't care to. I was a different person, too. I was no longer the guy who would drop everything to help someone who used and discarded him. About a month later, I got a call. It was Sarah's mom. My stomach tightened a little, but I answered. "Liam? It's Carol." "Oh, I'm so glad you picked up," she said, her voice dripping with the fake sweetness she always used when she wanted something. "I know things are difficult, but Sarah is in a really bad place. She's been so depressed since Mark left her. She knows she made a mistake. She's been saying how much she misses you, how you were always so good to her." I listened to her go on, but I wasn't really hearing her words. I was hearing the echoes of all the times she had let Sarah get away with her selfish behavior. She had enabled this. Now she was calling me to fix it. "Carol," I interrupted, my voice calm. "I don't know what you want me to say. I wish Sarah the best, but I can't help her. My life is here now. I have a new job, a new life. What happened between us, it's over." "But Liam, she really loves you," Carol pleaded, the sweetness in her voice turning to desperation. "She sees now that Mark was a mistake. She wants to come back to you. She needs you." I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, but no," I said, my voice firm. "What she needs is a therapist. I have nothing left to give her." And with that, I hung up the phone. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't gotten angry. I had simply stated a fact and moved on. The silence that followed was peaceful. The final showdown happened a few weeks ago at our mutual friend Emily's housewarming party. I almost didn't go. I hadn't been back to the old city since I left, and I knew there was a high chance I'd see people who had been on her side. But Emily had been one of the few who never ghosted me, and I was happy for her. So I went. I walked in, and the party was in full swing. People were laughing, and music was playing. I was chatting with Emily, telling her about my new job, when I felt a presence behind me. I turned around and saw her. Sarah. She looked different. Her eyes were hollow, and she was thin. The confident, smug energy she used to radiate was completely gone, replaced with a kind of desperate, frantic anxiety. Her shoulders were hunched, and she was holding a drink with a white-knuckled grip. She was clearly surprised to see me. Her eyes widened, and she took a step toward me. "Liam," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the music. "I can't believe you're here. I've been trying to talk to you. I left you so many messages." I just looked at her, my expression blank. I didn't give her a smile. I didn't give her a frown. I just looked through her, as if I was looking at a ghost. "I know," I said. "I got the messages. I'm so sorry, Liam. I was so stupid," she said, her voice cracking. "Mark, he wasn't who I thought he was. He was a monster. He used me. He said I was a loser, a stupid girl who couldn't take care of herself. He called me weak, Liam. He said I had no drive. He left me with nothing." She started to cry. The sound of her crying, which once would have sent me into a panic, now just felt like background noise. I felt nothing. No anger, no sympathy, just a sense of finality. "I miss you," she continued, her voice growing more desperate. "I miss us. I miss who you were. The way you took care of me. The way you always had my back. I need you. I'm so alone." I took a sip of my drink, my eyes scanning the room. I saw Emily looking at us from across the room, giving me a supportive nod. I saw my friend Mark. The one who had told me about her downward spiral, just watching from a distance. I turned back to her. My voice was calm and steady, like I was discussing the weather. I didn't look at her face. I looked at a point just past her shoulder. "You're right, Sarah," I said. "Mark was a monster. But you were the one who told me you needed a monster. You told me my kindness was a weakness. I learned from you, actually. I learned that my kindness is a gift, and I will only give it to people who see it as a strength, not a liability." She stared at me, her mouth slightly ajar. "Liam, please. I know I was wrong. I'm begging you. I'm at rock bottom." I finally looked her in the eyes. I gave her the same faint, polite smile I gave her the day I walked out. It was a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "That part of my life is over," I said. "The person you're looking for doesn't exist anymore. I'm not that guy. That guy would have felt sorry for you right now, but I don't. He would have tried to fix your problems, but I have my own life to build. And I have." I gestured around the party with my hand. "Look around, Sarah. I'm happy here. My life is good. You're not a part of it, and you never will be again. I wish you well." I took a final sip of my drink, set the glass on a nearby table, and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't feel anything. I felt like I was closing a book I hadn't read in a long time. I just left her there, in the middle of a room full of people, alone with her consequences. My kindness was no longer a weakness. It was a wall. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.